Okay, tell us your name.
David Berger.
Oh, hold on 1 second, Dave. Just to be on the safe side, I have another mic that I plug in here. Okay, go ahead.
Hi, my name is David Berger.
Okay, and you are a
Long-time Philadelphia sports fan. I'm 70 years old, and I've been lucky to have been able to be a part of the Philly fan base since I was 8 years old when the Eagles played their NFL championship game against the Green Bay Packers. A lot of people don't know this, but it was played on a Monday.
Hold on 1 second. Let me make sure this is on. Yeah, it's on. Okay. Just want to be sure.
Okay.
All right.
A lot of people don't know this, but when the Eagles beat the Green Bay Packers in 1960 for the NFL championship, it was played on a Monday. It had snowed on Sunday, but that wasn't the reason they didn't play. They didn't play on Christmas back then. And they had to start the game early because Franklin Field at that time didn't have any lights. And they beat the Green Bay Packers, who then became a dynasty. But the Eagles were the last team to beat them before they became a dynasty. So I have a remembrance of listening to that game on my transistor radio with my father when I was 8 years old. So that's for me where it begins. But I think I met you. I want to talk about meeting my friend Andrew over here.
Yes.
I was walking on the, for my exercise, I have 2 knee replacements. And I was walking in the ocean at Atlantic City, and I walk there as many days as I can in water knee deep because it's good for my knees. And Andrew was filming on the beach with a friend of his, and we walked up and chatted, and I was wearing a t-shirt, actually a t-shirt that looks like this, if I could, because it has 2 of my favorite things, the Eagles and the Grateful Dead. He called me over, and he asked me, I like the Dead, yeah, and he said, and you're an Eagles fan, yeah. And then he said, can you tell me anything like he's doing now? And I've been really lucky that I've been able to witness a lot of things in the Philly sports scene. And he told me what he was up to with, after further review and, focusing on first Los Angeles as a sports city. And my first reaction was, good teams, poor fan base. A lot of transplanted people, in my mind, the epitome of fair weather fans. But I don't want to make this about them. I think there's a contrast between them and a city like Philadelphia, hardened by losses. Philadelphia Phillies, first team to ever hit 10,000 losses in history. I don't think the Romans or the Greeks had anything that could beat that. So, I got to live this whole era. And, in 1968, the Eagles were 2-11 going into the last game of the season, where they subsequently ended 2-12 by losing to the Minnesota Vikings, Joe Kapp and the Minnesota Vikings. Once again, the day after Christmas, once again, snow all over the field, and the Eagles knew that the fans needed something, and it wasn't going to be the Eagles winning. So they brought a green flatbed truck into Franklin Field in the closed end of the horseshoe with a Santa throne, except Santa didn't show up. So they had to pull a guy out of the stands who probably was 170 pounds soaking wet, but he was wearing a Santa costume, and that's all that mattered. And in a playful way, we all threw snowballs at him. It was nothing but a love fest. It was the most American-like apple pie, throwing a snowball, right? And so that night, Howard Cosell, I should say may he rest in peace, but maybe not. In any case, Howard Cosell said Philadelphia fans at an all-time low today and totally blew it out of proportion in the wrong direction. And then Philly got its moniker, which I think is not deserved. The only moniker we deserve is that we're a great sports city, hardened by teams that weren't the greatest in much of my lifetime. The Eagles, after they won in 60, were horrible until Dick Vermeil in 1980.
But you said they were sold out, though.
Every time sold out. I always went to the game as a vendor. I sold Cokes at Franklin Field and at the Vet for a company called Burlow. I'd get into the game for free, and I wouldn't sell during the game. I'd take my coat off and found a seat or stood. At halftime, I would make it up, though, and sell all my Coke and make my money to get home. But I was there to see the games, and I went for free. One game can I recall at Franklin Field or at the vet that wasn't sold out.
Why do you think?
And people there at the end of the game. You ever see the movie Invincible where Papali's sitting there at the end of the game and they're losing 38-0? I've done that.
And that's true.
Yeah.
Why do you think? What does sports mean to people in Philadelphia?
It's well, it's probably true for every city, but I think more so in Philadelphia. We're a blue-collar city of homes, more neighborhoods in Philadelphia than any other city. And the one thing, all those neighborhoods, and very competitive. Like I went to Overbrook High, I played baseball at Overbrook, and very competitive between sections of the city, Roxborough and South Philly. But the one thing we all had in common more than anything else was our love of the Eagles. Love the Phillies, love the Sixers, but it's a football town. And our love of the Eagles just transcended everything. And I think there's a couple reasons for that. I think the media in Philadelphia was unparalleled. Now, I've lived in a lot of other cities.
Where else
And
did you live?
St. Louis, Tampa, Miami, and none of those, and you know, I traveled a lot, so I would always read the newspapers. I traveled 250,000 miles a year for 25 years at my job. So I was always on the road, always reading other sports pages. Nothing like the Eagles. The Eagles writers, Ray Diddinger, Sandy Grady, Stan Hockman, and then the guys that recently followed in their footpaths started sports radio in Philly, first sports radio in anywhere, with Tom Brookshire and Angelo Cataldi and Glenn McEnroe. All these guys from when I was a kid. My father got all three newspapers, the Daily News, the Bulletin, and the Inquirer. I was a paper boy. The only thing I read were the sports pages. The only reason I could do math was because I learned statistics with batting averages and completion percentages. You know, it got me in a love of reading, and the Philadelphia sports radios went beyond statistics.
Bill Lyon?
Bill Lyon, and he suffered from Alzheimer's. And he wrote about his battle with Alzheimer's. In his last year, he fought AI, as he called it, my nemesis. Great writers. And they gave the Philadelphia fans depth. I really believe that. And so we had an unfair advantage. And then being hardened by the losses and being a city of neighborhoods, but we all had, every city needs something in common, and ours was the Eagles. And we're always like under a little bit, guys don't want to admit this, but New York shadow, you know, how many World Series, you know. So we were the guys down the street. So we have a chip on our shoulder. We obviously have a chip on our shoulder.
And that's where Rocky.
Yeah. And there's a reason they filmed Rocky in Philadelphia. I don't think Sylvester Stallone's from Philly.
No.
But he did his research.
So people in Philadelphia can really identify.
Absolutely. And I've been able to live some stories just by being around. Like one year, Wilt Chamberlain took some kids from Overbrook High School. It may have been sports team related. I don't remember, but I got to go. And this was in 1968, his last year at the Sixers. And it must have been in February, because by the end of '68 he was playing for the Lakers. But he took a group of kids to a hockey game. Hockey was new to Philly. You know, the Flyers came in '67, so they were still an expansion team, and the game ended in a 4-4 tie. So we're all sitting there waiting for overtime because we didn't know any better. And I remember Wilt saying, "Come on, we got to go. They don't have overtime in this league." You know, I remember that. And then Muhammad Ali briefly lived in the Philadelphia area, right near I worked on Hereford City Line, in a section of Philly called Green Hill Farms on 72nd Street, in a house that was built by a mafia boss in the shape of a gun. And he lived there.
Scarfo?
I don't remember who the mafia guy was, but he wasn't the one that sold it to Ali. A family did, but he owned it before that family. And I rode my bike over there one day after work, and he let me in, you know, and this is when he wasn't fighting. It was before he was reinstated. His last fight had been with Zora Foley in '67, so now he's several years out before his return fights, you know, which didn't start with Frazier. It was Oscar Bonavena and Jerry Carr as a warm-up. But he was a really nice guy. He told me he was looking forward to getting back into boxing. He did an alley shuffle. Really, really good guy. So I've been able to be, like, blessed. You know, you can't do that as an adult. You can't show up at somebody's house on a bike, but you can as a kid.
You can as a kid.
Right.
Whereas you're Kevin, Lamb could do it.
Yeah, Kevin could do it.
Kevin could do it. Kevin absolutely could do
Absolutely.
it. Now, let me ask you a question. As far as a Mount Rushmore of Philly sports,
Yes.
could you give a Mount Rushmore?
Yeah, sure. I could. How many are 4 on Mount Rushmore?
Yeah.
I'm limited. Well, Wilt Chamberlain has to be at the top of that list. Mike Schmidt has to be at the top of that list. Chuck Bednarik has to be at the top of that list, and Bobby Clark. I'll put one from each sport.
Okay. Now, if you could do broadcasters,
Okay. Well, Harry Callis, Merrill Reese, Gene Hart for hockey. So I did Merrill Reese, right? Hart. What was the other one I gave you?
Merrill Reese,
Merrill Reese, Hart for hockey, Harry Callis for baseball, and what am I leaving out? The Sixers. Dave Zinkoff. Not because he was an announcer, but he was the one that career.
Yeah, okay. So, and then as far as the narrative, because we talked about Philly fans.
Well, when you told me about your idea, I love the idea, and I thought, I don't want to totally flatten LA because they've had tremendous success in their short history.
Right.
As their history is 50 years less than the teams on the East Coast. Remember, Dodgers were Brooklyn.
Right.
The Giants were New York. So they didn't come into existence until later. The Lakers were, I think, a team Syracuse or something. I don't remember. No, it was Minneapolis Lakers. So, like the fans, they were recent. But, with UCLA. So I saw a lot of what you're saying. I said, what a contrast it could be. 2 sports cities. Tinseltown versus blue-collar town. And pros and cons of both.
So I'll tell you why I like LA as a sports town.
Okay.
And this is great. This changed my this brings me back, right? I've been to a lot of NFL stadiums, and I haven't experienced this at NFL stadiums maybe ever, as the environment here. The thing about LA that I like is that people play sports. Sports is part of everyday culture. Because if you're not watching, you're playing. The other thing that I will challenge...
The weather helps you, guys.
The weather helps. There's a couple things. One, LA's the only city in the country that can tell 2 NFL teams to see you and still be a great sports city. How does anybody do that? Only in LA.
Well, you got plenty to work with.
Right.
You could go pros and cons with both, I mean... You should get, you could be the LA guy and I could be the Philly guy.
I love it, right? So that was one thing. The second thing.
But you got some Philly in you.
I do. Oh, without a doubt. Yeah, because I went,
And you got that cup, man. You got that cup from.
Exactly. And I lived in Tree Oaks.
Yeah.
No, New Hope I lived in.
Right, New Hope.
Right. The thing I was going to say about LA is that owners can't hold fans hostage there. They can't say, we're going to rebuild. It doesn't happen there. Because LA people say, you know what, we'll go do something else. We're here, or any places on the East, they know.
Yeah, and tell you something, if the Eagles had managed to move to Phoenix, there would have been a group of Eagle fans, because they travel well, that would have burned down the stadium in Phoenix. That would have not gone without, some payback.
So and then as far as Eagle fans being angry and things like that.
No, does these people look angry to you? Hey, are you people angry? No, you're happy people. This guy's a producer from LA and he's doing a thing on Eagle Sports fans.
Oh, yeah. You want a haircut?
What kind of haircut?
I need a haircut.
You want a haircut?
Can I film this?
Yes, you can.
All right. I will protect
This
the
is
innocent.
Philly fans.
Yeah. First you do the chocolate, then you do the alcohol. Swish it, shake it. Oh yeah.
Go Birds.
Go Birds.
Go Birds.
Go Birds.
Thank you.
I'm trying to be Kevin.